Hey dog people, if you're a professional dog trainer or dog business owner, you're probably exhausted. Because if you're anything like me, you're doing all the things to keep your business running. And one of the biggest strains is wondering where your clients are going to come from this week, or next month. Now, don't get me wrong, I love what social media does for my business. But when my business 100% depends on such an active strategy, I burn out fast. I want to help you create sustainability in your business and maybe even have time to get back to the life part of work-life balance. In my free marketing masterclass for dog business owners, I'm lifting up the hood and showing you the exact lead generation system I use in my business. Grab a notebook, trust me, and head on over to www.freedbytraining.com/unleash or click the link in the show notes and I'll teach you how to implement organic marketing strategy in your dog business. Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where canine professionals share their key takeaways, big aha moments, and hardest lessons learned from working with dogs. I'm Mattison, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant, and dogs are my life. Every day I get to coach guardians and other trainers into a deeper understanding of canine behavior. But let's face it, sometimes dog training really bites. And that's okay, because when it does, we learn a lot. This podcast is all about sharing the lessons learned from experience, because the stories of when it got tough or when we made a mistake, that's when we learn the lessons worth learning. And it's time we share those with the world. I'll be talking to dog trainers and other pet professionals about times that working with dogs, well, bit. Not literally. Maybe literally. What's most important here on this show, what did they walk away with? What did they learn? How did it shape their approach today? Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where pet professionals share personal lessons that you won't find in any textbook. Today, I'm speaking with Frozen Belton. Frozen, founder of Egghead Canine Education in West Philadelphia, is a certified dog trainer, CDTK, CPDT-KA, with a background in biology, psychology, and years of hands-on experience working with dogs. From raising service dogs to running their own business, Frozen is passionate about using science-based, compassionate training methods to help dogs and their humans thrive. Hello, Frozen. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and happy to see you.
I know this is one of the situations where Frozen is kind of an old friend at this point, and as soon as we hopped on the call, we were like, oh, friend, we need more time to just chit chat, but we had to get
Literally.
down to business, and we'll
Business.
handle chit chat later. But I know it's really important, and this is something that Frozen and I spoke about ahead of time, to give a little moment here to honor a dog that has had an impact on a lot of lives. So, Frozen, I'm going to pass it over to you to tell the dog people out there about Loop.
Yeah. Luke was a dog I adopted in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. We didn't know it was coming, but I could not have lucked out more with this dog. She was an English Bull Terrier, middle-aged, and she taught me a lot about not just my favorite breed, but about working with dogs. And she ended up becoming my demo dog, or some people call it a helper dog. And she was helping reactive dogs learn how to practice good behavior because she could be cussed at by another dog and just look the other way. She was totally nonchalant, care
Didn't
about
take it
literally
personally.
nothing. No,
Yeah.
she took nothing personally. She was nonchalant. And with a rescue dog, you never know how old they are. She chose to retire far sooner than I would have liked. And she actually passed peacefully in October of last year. And gave a lot more than she wanted to because she was an anti-capitalist to the core. And she is now memorialized as my new logo because she really got this started and did a lot of things for me. She helped for most dogs.
For a lot of people, and a lot of dogs with her, like you said, her nonchalance.
For a dog who didn't care about other dogs, she helped a lot of them.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it. But those are the dogs that we need to be the helpers, because some dogs are quote unquote non-reactive until they're getting screamed at. Like, I'm not going to stay neutral if I'm getting screamed at. I'm not that nonchalant. But Loop was really wonderful. And I know that very inspirational for a lot of your work in your business. And
Yeah.
it's just great to see her kind of memorialized that way. But she's not the only dog that we want to talk about. We also want to talk about the latest edition, which is not brand new at this
No.
point. But why don't you tell the world about Mim?
Yeah. So Mim is a 2-year-old Jack Russell Terrier. I brought him into the home when Luke very much said, I'm not working anymore and you can't make me. And I said,
She
that's
put in
okay.
her 2 weeks and she was like, actually, I actually mailed this 2 weeks ago, so it's effective today.
Literally. And so I got a Jack Russell Terrier against everyone's wishes because I know what types of dogs I like, not the types of dogs that are normally good at this work. And she really taught him how to respect another dog's boundaries.
Mhm.
And after we worked for 2 years on his pain and frustration,
Mhm.
he was labeled a reactive dog, but he was just frustrated because he loved dogs.
Yeah.
And so now he is starting to work with his first clients as a fully fledged helper. And he
Awesome.
actually most recently helped the dog earn their canine good citizen by being the neutral dog that they approach and sit and shake hands with me.
That is perfect. That is wonderful. And I know that's something that you have worked really hard over the last the last 2 years to get him to this point. And it was
Yep,
not a straightforward road.
not a straightforward road, but he is the love of my life. And every Tuesday we go and terrorize West Philly looking for rats. And it's his favorite thing in the world.
That's
So
perfect.
that's his payment for having to submit to capitalism.
Frozen, I am excited to get into the
Ooh.
story that you brought for me and the dog people out there.
Yeah, I brought you a juicy one.
We are ready.
So, because I couldn't not bring in a bull terrier story, this is about a dog named Gustav.
Oh, that's a great name.
Yeah, Gustav was a dog who was bred in Mexico, brought over the border when his parents moved to America, and after having a lot of space and a lot of yard, he didn't adapt well to the close quarters of the East Coast.
Mm.
So he was relinquished to a rescue, and his new family adopted him, knowing not much about him because they only had what was given to them when he was surrendered.
Right.
So they called me, referred by the wonderful people at Bull Terrier Rescue Mission, because they send everyone my way, that he was very, very dog aggressive. And I don't say aggressive lightly. He was not reactive. He wanted to kill other dogs.
Yeah.
And that's not my normal MO, but these were by the blood bull terrier people who were looking for someone who understood the breed and were willing to accept the fact that they know that this is the last stop.
Yeah.
So I did. I was open with them from the start that you need to work with a behaviorist. Thankfully, they already had one on board.
Great.
And I wouldn't accept no for an answer. You need a behaviorist if your dog's at this level and you're going to work with me. And that I was going to give them everything as long as they give me everything.
Yeah.
So we reevaluated with the behaviorist what meds he was on. And we took down every mirror in the family's home because he was reactive to his own reflection.
Okay.
We took
Wow.
down every photo of dogs in their home because he was reactive to them. They had a screensaver on their TV because it acted like a computer and it had pictures of their previous bull terrier. We had to take that down. And they even had a paper mache bull terrier mask, had to take it down. He was reactive to everything in the home that was vaguely shaped like a dog. And they lived right next to a park on a busy street.
Were they in the city?
In the city.
Oh, man.
South Philadelphia. So I put them on a strict diet of this dog only goes outside if you're directly putting him in the car. And they took him every morning for an hour to the Perkiomen Trail. And he hiked for an hour every day so that we could detox him from seeing dogs and say, can we clear his system of this chronic stress?
Mm-hmm.
We worked on engage, disengage. We worked on coping skills, calming patterns. But the main reason that he was in such dire straits is because he redirected his aggression onto the people. So
onto his handler?
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as he felt any physical attempt to stop him, whether that was the leash holding him back, or trying to physically move him out of the way, or even just stand in his way. If he felt he was being redirected, he would redirect. He landed up 2 bites on the husband, both on the ankle. And while he started making small, very small amounts of progress, and I would have liked to have been able to give them the answer they wanted, I said, this is the rate of progress. And because of the rule of same bite, if we mess up again, and by mess up, he's a dog, can't control the world, any dog,
or anything dog-like,
anything dog-shaped, then the most likely scenario is going to be another, it was a level 3, another level 3. So we probably had been working together for about 5 weeks at that point. And through every step of the way, I was advocating for muzzle training. This dog would most likely live in a muzzle if he was not in his kennel. This dog should probably be on a diet of pure loose leash on a trail rather than walking throughout the city. And they could not ethically give him to anyone else. And they understood that. They didn't want to give him to anyone else or surrender him because they knew what the answer would be. So once they realized that this would be the rate of progress and this dog was suffering and they wouldn't ever be able to vacation, they wouldn't be able to leave him with anyone when they visited their children who were in college, they decided that he was going to be euthanized. And I stood by all of their choices from the get-go. And I think that this is one of those cases that I say that I worked with dogs because I love dogs, but doing this actually helped me learn to like humans again, which is not a thing that dog trainers often get to say.
Get into it for the people? No,
yeah,
come on, we got into it for the dogs.
But I do say dog training helped me find my humanity again. And this is one of those cases that really helped that, because these were people who were willing to really put in everything for this dog. They made so many sacrifices. But at the end of the day, I was looking at these people and saying, you shouldn't have to live like this because your dog is unfortunately mentally ill. And that is what Gustav was. He had something genetic in him that prevented him from processing these things properly.
It didn't sound like you were ever, and please tell me how you read it, but it didn't seem or didn't sound like you were ever able to help him get to a actual baseline, even with the detox of that chronic stress.
We never got to a baseline. The thing we started for was, can he look at and then look away from that paper mache mask that lived in the house? Right. Just, is it a paper mache mask that's very cartoony and vaguely dog-like? Can he look at it and look away? And it never happened for 5 weeks.
After weeks and weeks. Yeah.
And this was with a behaviorist on board. Right. This was with him not seeing anything else dog-like for weeks.
You weren't the first stop. You were not the first person that they talked to.
No, I was the last person they talked to because I was experienced with bull terriers. And because I'm so experienced with the rescue population of bull terriers, I've started to notice these signs of genetic instability in bull terriers that are quite common because of how limited the gene pool is.
Yeah.
So when we see those signs of either seizure disorder, rage-like behavior, or complete inability to self-regulate, which turns into stereotypical behavior, self-mutilation, because he was self-mutilating, and redirection of aggression, it's a pattern that I saw only once before Gustav and since have seen even more. I know in my heart, we did literally everything we could, but nothing was ever going to be enough because this is a bull terrier specific genetic abnormality that happens. And I think that looking back, I knew in my heart that was the case earlier, and I was always upfront with them. I was like, going into this is a potential behavior euthanasia, me to the humans. This is what progress will look like if we see progress. This is what life will look like, and even the best case scenario. And I think that being that honest from the start, instead of selling a dream, because a lot of people will make a lot of profit by selling, oh yes, I know that your dog is displaying all these signs that they're in severe distress mentally, internally, whatever. But I'm going to sell you this dream that I can quote unquote fix your dog in
Yeah.
4 weeks guaranteed. To give them any sort of false hope would have been unethical.
Yeah.
I said
Absolutely.
that this is where we can get, which would be a dog who lives in a muzzle and only hikes. And in the home, you probably can maybe get to the point where you have dog furniture, but you probably shouldn't have mirrors. And maybe one person in the entire world could ever dog sit them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I had that experience because, like I said, it was really heartening for my humanity, but because it made me better at communicating the process and prognosis of a dog,
Yeah.
which is good for setting up boundaries and expectations. Sometimes in the past, I've not been that good about that. And people are wondering, when does my really dog aggressive dog start going back to daycare? So I've gotten really good at being able to say on day one, here's the range that your dog is probably going to be able to get to.
Yeah.
We can never guarantee, but your dog who is very reactive is going to be able to have most likely walks without outbursts with continued management. And eventually we'll probably be able to have walks with less management and probably can eventually cross dogs on the same side of the road. Being really specific about what goals we're aiming for and what the realistic progress of fixing the, well, not even fixing. Fixing is a word I try to avoid. Addressing the behavior that
Yep.
we're seeing.
Yeah. I think I've definitely had those cases that have had the same effect on me, where they've really helped me understand how to better assess and then communicate, which is to come back to your point earlier, the human part, being able to connect and communicate with the humans for us trainers is sometimes the hardest piece of it. And it sounds like Gustav gave you a gift there too.
He did. And to tack on to the human part and the communication part, I am autistic. I realized this through my therapy journey in the last few years, and it really helped me with honing in my social skills to realize, oh, this is why I think that I'm being clear enough when I'm
Hmm.
not. This is why I think that they're saying X, but they're saying Y. Because clarity is a thing that takes time to build when communicating
Hmm.
because we always say what we think we're saying, but it's
Right.
not always what being heard by the other person.
Hmm.
And communicating extra carefully because of how high risk this profile was, and really thinking about my word choice, thinking about making sure that we are always on the same page, made sure that I was that clear, as if it was that serious for Joe Schmo's dog who pees itself when the trash truck goes by or whatever.
Just bringing that level of specificity because it
Yes,
matters. It
it
matters
matters.
for people that we're not speaking generally about dogs, that we're talking to them about their dog and their situation. You're absolutely right. It's so easy, though. It's so easy to speak generally about dogs
Oh,
when
yes.
part of our job is being on social media and speaking generally about dogs.
And knowing, oh, generally dogs of this age and type and breed, generally border collies do X. Generally 7-month-old dogs do X.
That doesn't
But
really connect it to them and
it
their
doesn't.
dog.
And ultimately, it's about them. You are not, as a dog trainer, selling a fixed thing. You are selling how you can help a person.
Hmm.
And if we're only thinking about dogs and their behavior, we're never actually focusing on the key, which is the people and their lives.
Yep.
And while I could probably have gotten Gustav a certain percentage better, I would never be able to give these people good lives with Gustav.
Hmm.
And quite frankly, I wouldn't have been able to give Gustav a good life. I would
It
have just
didn't
been able,
sound like a
no,
very fulfilled or full existence.
it would have
It
been a very small, narrowed existence. So even if I said, oh, yes, I improved this dog 5%, his life was still not up for being humane.
and not without risk.
Oh, highly risky, extremely
Yeah.
risky.
Yeah. I appreciate you diving into all of that because these are the conversations that I think a lot of folks shy away from because it's not easy and it's not always comfortable, and it certainly wasn't an easy experience to go through, and it's sometimes not even easy to reflect on it, to be on the other side of it and look back at it and be able to pull out those lessons. So I really appreciate you being willing to do it and also being able to do it, because it's not easy and that takes a lot of strength.
It's not easy, but I think that it becomes a lot easier when you think about death is not the worst thing that can happen to a dog. Death is not the cruelest thing that can happen to a dog. And a euthanasia is not a failure to an adopter or a trainer. Sometimes it is our professional duty to step into people saying, please help this dog, and saying, I'm sorry, but this is terminal. If this was a medical illness of the heart, you would say this is terminal. And we as behaviorists and trainers and medical professionals and whatever area of dog that you're in, when it comes to behavior, sometimes behavior is terminal.
Yeah. And this unfortunately was one of those situations.
It was, but I've maintained a good relationship with the owners of Gustav and the keepers of Gustav's story. And now when they're ready for their next dog, they know that they can come to me for a matchmaker service so that I can make sure that they're asking rescues the right questions, looking at behavior objectively, and won't have this happen to them again because they didn't know what they were getting.
Absolutely. Again, I just appreciate you being willing to dive in and share that story. And I know that made an impact on your training and on your career, and I'm sure that it will have that impact on others as well. So, Frozen, is there anything else that you'd like the listeners to know about you or what you do?
Oh, absolutely. So I like to say that I specialize in first-time dog owners, and I like to introduce them to the way of the dog. My whole ethos is about education for a quote-unquote lifestyle of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is being curious about your dog, being curious about your dog's behavior, and being curious about training as a scientific process. So if you want a whole dog experience that kind of is a dog 101, but also specializes in your dog's individual reasons for wanting training, that's what I do.
And if you have a bull terrier.
And if you have a bull terrier, because I love these weirdos. I probably am going to take a break from owning these weirdos because I can only fit so many dogs in my apartment. And they are only getting bigger and bigger. I've seen 80 pounds and these, yes. Imagine an English bull terrier that's 80 pounds. We don't need that. Not in my apartment. But they are a breed I'm passionate about because they're such weirdos.
They are our kind.
Yes.
Fantastic. You can connect with Frozen on Instagram at Egghead Canine, that's CANINE, and you can find more information and a link to their work in the show notes. Thank you for joining us in the world of Dog Training Bytes, where every challenge brings a lesson worth sinking our teeth into. See you next time. Dog Training Bytes was created, produced, and edited by Mattison Simpson. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dog Training Bytes, that's BYTES, and at Freed by Training. For information on today's guest and resources for help with your dog or dog training education, visit www.dogtrainingbytes.stream. Looking for more? Listen to my other show, Unpacked, a clinical dog training podcast co-hosted by Sailor Jerry the dog trainer and produced by Straight Up Dog Talk LLC.